Hi, Liz here with EMO's Creative Studio, where anything and everything you create is beautiful because you created it. And I'm actually on the road and I brought my sewing stuff with me. And today what I would like to show you is how to make this very cute eyeglass holder case with snaps. See, I've got my glasses in here. Got this. It has a lining. It has batting in the middle, and it's 2 pieces of fabric. Let me show you the other one I made. This one has my sunglasses in it, really cute with the snaps. You can use a snap, or you can use Velcro, or you can use the metal snaps if you want. Oh, let me take my glasses out. This is a pretty decent size case. And if you don't want to use this case for your eyeglasses, you certainly can use it for pencils and brushes. And let me show you that right now. Let me take this one, take my reading glasses out, and let me show you. I've got some pencils and pens right here that I can put in. It fits really nice. Has some room on the edges, and you could just snap it closed and throw this into your bag, your purse, whatever. And this is really a good size for the smaller brushes that you have for your makeup. So let's get started. Okay, let me show you what I'm going to use in the way of tools to make this cute little bag. I have a ruler, I have a thing to poke the corners out, I have a small pair of scissors to cut, I have my rotary cutter to cut my fabric. Everyone has already seen my video on how to cut fabric, so we're going to skip that step. I have my box with my snaps and then the tool that I use to place the snap on, so I'm going to put that to the side. I have 3 pieces of fabric. They're all cut, 2 pieces of fabric and batting, and they're all cut to the following measurement. The smallest side is 8 inches. This is 8 inches by 11 inches. All 3 pieces are cut 8 inches by 11 inches. And the very first thing I want to do is make sure that my fabric is all ironed out nice and neat. There are no creases, or I try to get as many of the creases out as possible. For this particular bag, the person that I'm making this for chose her fabrics, and she wants the polka dots to be on the outside and the inside to be the solid pink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron my batting to the wrong side of the interface of the lining. So I'm going to take my iron and I'm just going to place it on here and just iron my fusible batting onto the wrong side of my fabric. Now you see I'm giving a few shots of steam. I find that easier for me because it doesn't give me so many wrinkles. If I do it dry, for some reason I get so many wrinkles on my piece of fabric that I'm adhering the batting to. Okay, I know I'm doing the right side because the iron stuck to the batting. Your batting doesn't have to be exact, but it should be close to it. So what I want to do is I'm going to remove my ironing spot, and I'm going to trim this down with my rotary cutter and my ruler. So I'm just going to put my iron to the side because I'm not working in the studio. I'm working in a small. I'm in my the room that I'm here using while I'm gone. And I just put that off to the side. Grab my ruler, and I'm going to match up the edge of my fabric to the ruler so that I can get the extra batting off. I want to make sure that I'm on the table that I'm working on, right there. Grab my rotary cutter, open it up, and slice off that extra piece. I'm going to turn it around because I want to slice off that extra edge of batting right there. Open it up. Make sure you're lined up as close as you can to the fabric so you're not cutting into the fabric, because you don't want to really lose any inches to that fabric. So I've got it trimmed up. Next thing I want to do is I want to put right sides together, or pretty sides together. I want to place a couple of pins in here to make sure it doesn't move when I'm doing the next two steps. Oh, I forgot, you need to have some pins as well. So I am going to pin, or throw a couple of pins in here to make sure all three pieces don't move. Here's one. And you really should invest in some really good, nice, sharp pins. These are inexpensive, cheap pins that I use when I go traveling. Alright, so the next thing you need to do is you want to make the edges rounded. You want to make those edges rounded on the shorter 8-inch length. So what I like to do is I like to fold my project in half. Make sure you don't poke yourself with the pins, and pick a side you want. Take anything that's circular that will help you get that rounded edge. Take your marking instrument, and I'm using a red leaded pencil, and draw your line so that you can cut. Now I'm hoping that this will draw good, and I'm sorry again if you see my head, sorry. Alright, I got a good marking there. You take your scissors, and then you just cut the edge, making sure that it's all rounded and that you don't leave any sharp edges. That's good. If you're not comfortable holding the edges together, you can always pin it together right here, or use one of your quilting clips. Now this is a little lopsided, but I will fix that when I sew it. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to sew it. And what you're going to do is I'm going to mark opposite of the curved edge down here. I'm going to mark about a 3-inch opening, so I'll use my blocks. I'll use right here, right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew, backstitch, sew over here, pivot, sew all the way around, pivot, sew in, backstitch. Alright, let's move over to the machine so you can see what I'm talking about. What I like to do is I like to make an L shape on my beginning and end. I'll start my sewing a 1/4 inch from the edge, sew in, pivot, and 1/4 inch around. This makes it easier for when you turn your item inside out, that the fabric will fold a little bit nicer when you're ready to sew closed your opening. So let's put this under the machine, or under the needle, and we're going to start this off rather slow. Sorry, I had the alright, I had the bobbin threader down, so oops, forgot to remove that. Now I know my foot is a 1/4 inch, so I'm going to go ahead and follow the edge of my foot, and I'm going to judge. Down. Let's see if I guessed good. Yes, I did. I have my stitch set at 2.5. So now I'm going to go ahead, and I'm sorry, I'm trying not to be, make this go a little bit quicker so that you can see what we're doing here. We continue sewing all the way around. Try to keep my fingers out of the way. Now I'm going to slow down my stitch speed because I want to make this the turn I'm going to be able to turn my project and make that curve. Continue making that curve until I get to the straightaway. I'm trying not to put a fold in it, but I think there's a fold in it by accident. Let's go fast till we come up to the next curve. Slow down. We're matching this edge to the edge of the foot. And we're on the straightaway again. Let's continue stitching quickly. We're coming up to another corner where we're going to pivot. Down, press our foot up. Pivot. Now we want to make sure that we try to get this needle to stop. Down. And we should be back stitching so that we don't lose the stitch as we're going. Pull it out and cut it on the seam ripper, it's this thread cutter. And you can see that we've gone ahead and stitched it. What I like to do to make my corners a little bit easier when I turn my item around is snip, 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 snip. I want to make sure that I'm not cutting. I cut just like a 1/16 away from the stitch line, because if you go all the way through, you're going to be cutting into your stitch line, and then when you turn it over, you're going to have a big mess. We'll go back and do this over here on this curve. You're doing this so that you have enough leeway to when you turn it over. Alright, so now with the opening right here, it's a little opening, I didn't give myself a lot of room. I'm going to go ahead and push it through. Go ahead and push this through. And get everything through. And you can see that it's inside out now. I'll get my tool that I used to poke. I'll stick it in here. And I'll run it across the edge, the curved edge here, so that gives me a nice edge here, and then I will use my finger to poke out the corners. I'll use this, it's called a purple thing. I bought it just because it was a purple thing. Push it through. Oh, you saw that I pushed it through too much. That's what I don't like about these things. You push it through, you go right in between the stitches. So this is salvageable. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to iron this out, and what I'm going to do is iron the seam right here, because the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of hand sewing this closed, because I'm not real good at doing that, I'm going to put a little border, probably 1/8 of an inch border across here. I'm going to top stitch it. So it gives me the opportunity to make sure that this is closed properly. But I'll go ahead and do that off camera. I've got it all ironed out, and actually I went back to the person that's wanting this, and they want this, the polka dots, to be the interior and the darker pink pattern to be the exterior. I've increased my stitch length to 3.0. I am going to put my needle down, and I'm going to give myself, let me see with the light, I'm going to do about 1/8 of an inch stitching on, and I back stitched. And I'm stitching across to catch the opening. Back stitch and off. And go ahead and cut it long enough, and I will take my little snips, my little scissors, and I'll cut the edges off, because this one kind of knotted up, so I'll have to fix that. Pull it apart and fix it. But there's my top stitching right there. The next step I want to do is I want to fold my lower flap up and measure it at 3.5. I'm using the seam guide ruler like this and marking it at 3.5. And I'll want to put a couple of pins in so I make sure it doesn't move when I'm sewing all the way around. So I'll put a pin here. Sorry, I already told you about these pins. And then I'll go on this side and I'll insert my small ruler at 3.5 where I've got it marked. I know there's a special name for those rulers. I'll have to figure it out and put it in the display. So now we've got it folded over so that we can start stitching. I'll start at this edge. I'll do it at 1/4 of an inch. Put my needle down. We'll do it at 1/4 of an inch. Backspace at the beginning. And we'll stitch all the way around. When we get to the rounded edge, we'll slow up the machine just a little. Now I like to double stitch right here where it folds over, meets the edge, just to give it a little extra security so that it doesn't pull away when you're opening and closing your bag and putting in what you're going to be putting in. And so we just go around and around we go. It goes around and around. Right here again. Sew it over again. And we're almost at the edge, so we want to make sure that we back stitch. And we're done. And in the meantime, the threads all got caught underneath. Good thing it was at the end, towards the end. I'm just going to cut it and I'll fix it. And here we go. Our bag is now completely sewn together. Got a nice top stitching right there. You've got top stitching all the way around to hold your bag. Next thing up is to put in the snap. So we've gone ahead and chosen a white snap, and we're going to put it 3/4 of an inch up from the edge. So let's get our measuring device. Have 3/4 inch up. Put a little dot right there. And hopefully that dot is about 3.5 inches from each edge. And I think I was very lucky, and it almost is. Okay, let's just scooch it over just a bit. 3.25, 3.25. Alright, so I'm just gonna poke a little hole in it, the first layer, there we go. And I'm going to send my snap through that little hole. There we go. And you're going to send it through. You're not going to use any scissors or anything to poke a hole. That's what you've got. In a complete kit, you get this poking thing so you can start your hole. You're going to take this part of the snap. This is the male part of the snap. Put it in. The flat part is going to go in the bottom of the black piece. You just got to make sure that the button falls into place. And everything just snaps into place like this, and then you just squeeze. And what happens is that it squeezes it. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to show you. It squeezes it all together so it stays in there. So then what you're going to do is you're going to fold your flap over and press as hard as you can to make the indentation. And you can kind of see it right there. I'm going to take my little hole poker and I'm going to poke a hole, hopefully not through my finger but through the fabric. There it goes. And now let's go ahead and do the male portion of the, no, this is the female portion of the snap. The other one was the male portion. So we'll put the button on the inside. Oh, sorry. Sorry. We'll put the button part on the inside of the flap, and then we'll put this part on the outside with the larger opening out, the female portion. Again, you'll take your tool, your pressing tool, and the flat button part goes inside the black bottom shorter part. Until you're really proficient at this, which I'm not, you get to play around with it a little, which I am. Get it in there. You'll feel each part fall into their seat. And then again, you press really hard. Press, 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 press. And then you take it out, and you can see right there that it's, sorry, here we go. You see right there that the plastic in the middle has been scrunched. Go ahead and see, you hear the snap? Hear the snap? Well, okay, you may not hear the snap, because I think I did this wrong yet again. Turn off the camera. Okay, now that we finally got everything correct, this is the male, this is the female. You close it and you can hear the snap. And now you have your completed eyeglass case. Just like that one, just like this one, and just like this one. Once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to make it in 15 minutes. I know it took us a little bit longer because I was showing you detailed steps. So there you go. There's your completed bag. Thanks for joining. Like, subscribe, share on social media, share with your friends. I'm on social media, Facebook, social media, Instagram. The information will be listed below. Like, subscribe again. My name is Liz. We are at EMO's Creative Studio, where anything and everything you create is beautiful because you created it. Until the next time.